Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast, Dog of the Week video. And this video is for my favorite betting underdog for the UFC Fight Night, Des Moines card, Sandhagen taking on Figueiredo. And I think on this entire card, you can make a great case for a lot of underdogs. You have Ryan Loader, Daniel Marcos, Daniel Rodriguez, Cameron Smotherman, and many, many more that I think you can make a great case for. But only one can make the cut for this week's Dog of the Week as my favorite betting underdog. And that underdog is going to be Cameron Smotherman, Texas's own Cameron Smotherman. And I like him in this matchup here against City. And if you weren't aware, obviously, if we talk a little bit about City, his opponent, he's fought Garrett Armfield and Ramon Tavares, and both guys are basically boxers, and he had a lot of difficulty with those boxers. City does have good kicks, but once you get inside his kicking range, his hands do get a little bit exposed. And out of all three of those opponents that I just mentioned, if you take Cameron Smotherman and add that to the list as the third opponent, I think he's probably the best boxer out of all three. He has more power, he has faster hands, he rips to the body, he has good forward pressure, and we saw all of those things in his last fight against Jake Hadley, who was recently cut by the UFC and has gone on to have success in the PFL. So I definitely think that's a creditable win for Smotherman. He's definitely been taking a lot of stick and a lot of flack in his UFC career and his MMA career overall. I don't think people are very high on Smotherman, but I think the odds tell you everything that you need to know here about how the bookmakers see his last performance against Jake Hadley and City's lack of conviction in his last two fights. You could make a case that Armfield won that fight and he should be 0-2 inside the UFC. So I think Smotherman here, I think he has a great skill set to cause City a lot of problems. I think he can pressure forward is his first key to victory here. Pressure forward, keep City on the back foot. He likes to throw kicks up the middle. He likes to throw teep kicks. I think if Smotherman just keeps pressuring forward, keeps him on the back foot, he'll end up having to use his boxing, which Smotherman's going to have the advantage of. Like I mentioned earlier, that Smotherman is the more athletic, faster-handed fighter. And City, we've seen in the past in his last two fights, get touched up on the feet with the hands. We saw Ramon Tavares drop him. We saw Garrett Armfield absolutely jab City's face off and bust his nose up. He wore a lot of damage in that fight and was still able to get a crooked decision. But ultimately, I think that's going to be a great path to victory if he pressures forward and lets his hands go. And I think for Smotherman, honestly, the best way to find the chin of City is to look to counter. If City walks in and kind of throws his shots, draw the shot out of City with the hands and then look to counter. Smotherman does a fantastic job of throwing the left hook and he rips it to the body and then he comes upstairs. I think with a guy like City sometimes being the taller, rangier fighter, I think he leaves his chin a little bit high. So I think if he's able to counter with that left-handed hook, I think City's chin will be right there. And I think a guy like Smotherman can definitely put a guy like City out who's been dropped by much less credentialed boxers. And I think the last key to victory here is just slip and rip. I think, like I said with the counters, that if he draws out the attack and he's patient with City and he's able to move out of the way and then slip and rip to the body or the head, I think he'll have a lot of success here in this matchup. And I think with Smotherman as well, I think he can keep up with the volume. If he does need to mix in takedowns, that is available. I don't worry about him on the ground. But I think realistically, the boxing and the forward pressure here with Smotherman is going to be enough for him to cash here as our dog of the week. And like I said, I'm not telling you guys what to do with your money. He's my favorite betting underdog. I think he's going to cash for us this week. I like him at plus 110. I think he should be the favorite in this matchup. And City, like I mentioned, is kind of lucky to be have a win inside the UFC because I think he should arguably be 0-2 so far inside the UFC. But that's my dog of the week this week, ladies and gentlemen, for UFC Fight Night Des Moines and Corey Sandhagen taking on Figueiredo. And if you've enjoyed the content this week, I apologize for getting the video out to you guys late, but he is still an underdog, so you can still grab him. Like and subscribe. See you guys in the next one. Peace.